What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dude, I just realized that. Episode 30 of the Uncommon Line podcast. We're going to bring Tom on. He's actually here. He's going to kind of just sit here in silence as we do our intro. And Mark is back.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
He's still got some kidney stones, but he's back.
Well, they don't know that yet.
Yeah. Oh, I guess they don't know that. Yeah. So I forgot you were for Tanya, Dr. Glenn's episode.
Yeah.
You were working, but he almost didn't make it today. He nearly almost died.
Yeah. Why in there? Well,
he literally nearly died.
Oh.
So he was in the ER, but we got some kidney stones. So if you see him just rush off, everybody just stay still because we're still going to be here.
I'll be okay.
So, but before we get to Tom and Destiny Rescue, which I'm really pumped about this. If anybody hadn't listened to, I don't even remember what episode it was, but it was the tactical games down in Florida at the national championship. Go back, but where we got to sit down a little bit with him and kind of preview it. And immediately after the interview, I was like, yeah, we're going to need to do a full episode with them, especially since kind of our realm of work. You know, we deal with this a lot. So we'll get into that. But before we bring them on, we got to thank our sponsors. And really, we got to think where we're at today.
Dude, I love this place.
So
every time, it's such an experience.
Yeah. So we started building a relationship with Texas Gun Experience when we were here for Total Recon. And Brian and Angela and just met Sarah and their whole team here, the entire staff at Texas Gun Experience. We have to say thank you. The fact that we're in this unbelievable boardroom. And I took for granted how big this table is.
Dude.
But it's awesome. The place is incredible. Tom got the, we'll talk to him when he comes on officially, and got the preview of the whole place. But we couldn't be more blessed and thankful that we got to be here and got to see this place, and going to be doing some more stuff here.
Yeah, dude.
So
it's awesome. This table is awesome.
If you're in Grapevine, Texas, you got to come in and check out Texas Gun Experience. You can check them out at Instagram at Texas Gun Experience, their website, www.texasgunexperience.com. Come in and support them. It's literally like 5 minutes from the airport.
Yeah.
So if you ever got a layaway, I tell you, get an Uber, come over, come check it out. All right. So next sponsors, Traffic Systems. Obviously, we've got some stuff coming up with them. We've got our next episode part of the Pushing the Line series. Jim Smith, sniper from Black Hawk Down, not the movie, like the legit.
Yeah. The actual
story, actual story.
The actual event.
Was a Delta Force guy, Special Forces, and owns a tactical company now. So we're going to be sitting down with him and talk to Trark some more. And last but not least, Tack Hunt Fish.
The boys,
the brochachos. We got a drop coming up, and I should have known the date for the drop, but it's okay because I really, that's more for us to buy. But check out their Instagram at Tack Hunt Fish. That's TACHUNTFISH. www.tackhuntfish.com. They've got some awesome stuff coming up.
Yeah, they do.
Dude, that hot pink shorts.
Yeah, he hasn't previewed anything yet, but
he did.
Well, I thought it was just for the girls.
Oh, no. That's good. We're going to convince him to make that for the boys.
Yeah. Those are sick, though.
So, all right. So, guys, the thing we're talking about today is human trafficking. And I think that I know America hears it, right? Like, we're hearing it, a lot about it. But, there still needs to be so much awareness because I don't think people understand the gravity of the situation. And so, with that being said, we've got Tom. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for having me. It's an honor.
From Destiny Rescue. And so your title, real quick, again, I know we just talked about it and I keep forgetting it.
Director of Advancement.
Director of Advancement, essentially like the head speaker.
No, I'm part of the speaking team.
Okay.
So I get to travel and along with our team, and we get to talk about the work that we do, raise awareness, also recruit talent. So get individuals to, one, join us, be a part of our team, and then to encourage others to be able to be a part of rescue and through rescue partner or other ways to financially support rescue.
That's awesome. So let me start here. You know what I do, you know what Mark does, and one of the first things, and we'll talk about the global impact, right? Because y'all are real heavy on like the global impact, but let's just talk basic, like dumb it down. Like human trafficking is happening probably right down the street.
Yeah.
Probably at the hotel you were just staying at when you flew in here. How big of a pandemic is this?
Yeah, so the best way that I could to frame it so that everybody understands is the population of Dallas is 1.3 million people. If you woke up tomorrow and everyone was gone out of Dallas, that's the scope of just the amount of children that are being sold every year. 1.2 million children sold every year.
Now, real quick on that note, like I know in Texas we signify a child as certain ages, right? So as far as like the global and here in the United States, what are they stating as a child? Like
we're determining that a child is under the age of 18.
okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, so same
same.
metric. Yeah. So I mean, you think about like if there was if you woke up tomorrow and the inhabitants of Dallas was gone, what would you do?
But I was still here.
The rapture.
I'd come to Texas Gun Experience and steal all the guns. No. Yeah, I mean, it's a scary thing. Like, I mean, yeah, the rapture. Like, that's the first thing you think about.
Yeah, you think of the rapture, you know, you automatically check your heart and go, okay, God, are we cool? All right, we are. Now, what do? Like, I'd be calling task forces. I'd be calling you guys. I'd be calling everybody that I could think of. We'd mobilize. I mean, there'd be riots in the street, like people saying, we have got to do something about this because my neighbor that was here yesterday is no longer here and enforced slavery. I mean, that's just the amount of kids. The stat that's being used right now as the conservative stat is there's over 40 million individuals enslaved.
Jesus. In
some form of slavery, labor trafficking, sex trafficking. So with that reality comes this understanding that for that scope, it has to be everywhere. You can't say, well, it's not in my area, it's not in my backyard. Like it's everywhere. Every country, every state, everywhere. It's in our backyard. It's happening.
Oh, no, yeah.
And you guys see that from the roles that you guys are playing, but it's understanding that this problem is so big that we've got to pay attention to it. We can't not do anything about it anymore.
So I feel like we've started to see an influx of stuff being covered, right?
Right.
I mean, you know, it's becoming more, you know.
I said prominent.
Yeah.
I've always thought of it as almost like a stain people don't want to talk about. I guess at least for us stateside, it's almost like, well, that happens overseas, you know. That happens in like the Taken movies, you know, somewhere in Germany or in the red light district and stuff. It doesn't happen here. And what you don't know is like you go down the street and it's not like people are getting taken like they are in that movie. It's like family members, young men and boys are getting transferred in and out of like their own homes between like either older brothers, fathers, like things like that, or boyfriends that come in, girlfriends that come into the relationship. And it's terrible.
The interesting thing is you hit something too that I think a lot of, you know, part of this episode I wanted to be like awareness, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are one tracked when they think about what human trafficking is, right? Like I see it like here in the States, the back pages, the sex, you know, the girl that's being recruited for sex. It's not just that. Like you said it, labor, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, we've seen them that they're forcing people, holding their passports to come and work for them here doing, I mean, whatever. It's not just sex, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, to me, it's all bad, right? But the sex stuff and the sex industry that's playing into it is just, I mean, there's so much more that comes with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you think about like the work that Destiny Rescue does, like the youngest that we've rescued is 18 months.
Oh my God. That's nuts. That's crazy.
You know, just this past year, we rescued a 2-year-old boy. It was one of our first cyber cases that we were able to bring rescue to this boy. I mean, so it is, I mean, yeah, when I quote the stat of 1.2 million kids trapped, that's sex. Like they're sold and exploited. I mean, that reality is...
That's not even including, like, adults that are being for...
right, it's not including adults. Like, that number is just kids that are being sold and trafficked for sex, I mean, so that reality is just mind-boggling. And I think back to your point, Mark, we don't know how to talk about it. It's so big that it's one of those things that we just we're okay with the elephant in the middle of the room, in a sense, because it's so dark, it's so scary.
It is, yeah. I don't know how did you say it, but it is a dark. It is like it's an evil thing.
It is.
That's what it is, and I think that's the big, when we talked about it on previous podcasts. It's like it is true evil at one of its purest forms, and the fact that it exists, it's almost too much for people to comprehend. Yeah. So I think it would be better for us to not even try to comprehend it. It's just we wash it off and then we use the justification. It's like, well, that happens not here, but somewhere else, right? So you can distance yourself from it. But in reality, I was like, no, buddy, like that's happening probably 2 streets down.
Yeah.
Are we normalizing it too much?
I think so, but I also think that we just don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to frame it.
So what do you mean by that?
We
because that's something I've heard before. Like, we just don't know. I mean, obviously, you know how to talk about it. This is what you do. I mean, that's what. But as a society, we don't know how to talk about it.
We don't know how to talk about it because we're so action driven. Like I believe the best about humanity, and I believe that when we see a problem, we want to address the problem. We just don't know how, and we don't know if we're going to make a difference. Like that number is so daunting, it could overwhelm us to go, well, we freeze. You know, there's the flight, fight, or freeze approach to psychology. We could see that number and freeze. Well, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I could ever make a difference, so I'm not going to lean in. But there are so many people around the world that are leaning in. And to your point, as the awareness is being raised and people are going, no, that can't happen on my watch. Like the reason why I gave the stat about Dallas is because we do something about it. Well, the moment we see the problem and we know I can make an impact, let's run, let's go. And it's game on. So I think when we talk about not knowing how to talk about it, we're also talking about we're not sure exactly what to do, or we're not sure if we can make a difference. So, and then the other side of it is that there's so many things that are happening. It's so dark that we just need to infuse hope. You know, we need to infuse that there is a difference being made. There are men and women that are here in the U.S. that are stationed around the world, agents, rescue agents, and organizations that are making a difference and making an impact. We need to start talking about the impact of what we're doing as well, so that it's not, we don't just focus on the dark. You know, I was a pastor for 20 years. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is John 1, where it says, light shines in the darkness, but darkness doesn't overcome it. It means darkness doesn't win. So the moment that, and darkness is just simply the absence of light. Like if you turn the light on, darkness runs away. So what you're seeing in our culture today is people are turning the light switches on. They're turning the light switches on in their homes and talking about this issue with their kids. They're turning the light switches on in their organizations, and they're making a difference. There's others who are doing it in schools, and teachers are paying attention to it. Like I don't have a conversation rarely with people that I don't hear them say, well, I was just trained at my job on how to recognize the signs, or I just attended a class, or I follow these groups on social media. Like so that reality of we're turning the light switch on and we're starting to talk about it. We're not afraid to have the conversation that there are kids being sold for sex. We're losing that fear, and I think that's the key thing too. Being able to talk about it is we've got to stop being afraid of it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do this. We kind of set the tone on like the issue, right? Like the problem. Like this is the problem, and I wanted people to kind of hear that even before we got into Destiny Rescue. I now want people to know like what the organization is, and I know we talked about it a lot on in the few minutes we had at the tactical games. But before we kind of go into more stuff, I want people to know like, okay, look, there's the problem, right? Now here's the solution.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about your role with Destiny Rescue first, and then like what is Destiny Rescue?
Yeah. So my role with Destiny Rescue is I get to travel and speak and raise talent, funds, and awareness. So I get to raise awareness and help people see the scope of the problem and what they can do about it. Raise talent to invite people to come be a partner with us, whether that become go overseas to be a part of our rescue team or our aftercare team, and then to raise funds, because the reality is that we can keep rescuing as long as there are resources to rescue. You know, the average cost to rescue for us as an organization is $1,500 US. So
is that okay? So, and you'll get into that because that price point's not that much.
It's
for
not
y'all's global impact.
Right. And so as part of my role is to be able to talk about that and to help people to say, I can make a difference, and to partner and to create avenues for that to happen. So that's part of why I'm here with you guys, is to be able to talk about that issue. As Destiny Rescue, an organization, we were founded about 20 years ago. Our founder was an electrician by trade and saw the global problem of trafficking. He and his wife overheard a guy say that he had been offered a child to do with whatever he wanted for $400 US. And it just broke them. And they're like, we have to do something about that. They went home, sold their business, sold their home, and moved to Thailand and said, we'll figure it out. And once they got on the ground in Thailand, they began to do group homes and work with street kids, and then began to learn how to rescue, because they were seeing that that's one of the biggest ways they can make an impact, is to go into the places that kids are being sold and to rescue them out, to bring them to freedom. So our organization started doing that, and we started in Thailand and then went to other countries in Southeast Asia, and now we're in 8 countries. We're launched 5 new pilot projects in the midst of 2020, and our goal is to launch 5 new rescue nations this year. So with that, like our group, we're an international nonprofit that rescues and restores kids. Our goal is to rescue kids and to help them stay free. So that means on the other side of rescue, we're doing aftercare, we're providing counseling, we're addressing the vulnerabilities that led them into this reality for them, and to help them stay free, to pursue their dreams. The average age of the child we rescue is 15. Last year we rescued 751 individuals. We're closing in on 6,000 rescues as an organization. In 2019, we rescued over 1,200. This year alone, we just rescued 100. We're now at 174 rescues. So that means we average almost 3 rescues a day.
Wow. And what's awesome is how they do it. Now, here's the thing. For OPSEC reasons, I don't want you to go into you obviously can't go into a ton of detail on that, but talk about the rescue and talk about how y'all are going about doing that.
Yeah. So we rescue a few different ways. One of the great ways that we're doing border rescues. So we're on the border of Nepal. We have 10 border stations, and our agents there have governmental authority to actually stop any person and ask questions. And so as they're doing that, like they're finding kids that are being lured across country lines with the promise of a job or the promise of marriage. And so we're able to bring rescue to those kids before trauma even happens for many of them. Our agents go out undercover, so we do covert rescue. So we're in bars, brothels, karaoke TV bars. We're undercover, being able to find places that kids are being sold, and then to covertly offer them a chance of freedom. So that may mean that we pay a bar fine and take her off site, identify who we are and what we do. One of my favorite stories about that is a young lady named Tala. Our agent found Tala in a bar, and there's loud music playing, and she's bobbing her head to the music. And as she's bobbing her head, he used to be a drummer for a band. And that's what kind of led him he saw the realities of trafficking, but because as a drummer, he had the ability to have conversations, that skill set served him well. And he just asked her, says, what kind of music do you like to listen to? And she's like, I like to listen to church music. And he just froze. He's like, and he got her off site, and he broke cover, and he said, help me understand. And she says, I used to teach Sunday school and lead worship at my local church, but I'll do anything for my family to survive. And he broke cover, told her who he was and what he did, and said, would you like to come to freedom? And she said, I've been praying, and I asked God to send an angel to rescue me, and I think that you're my angel. So we go out covertly. We're also in those covert sessions, we're gathering intelligence to be able to bring raids against establishments and arrest traffickers. Last year we I think it was December timeframe, we had a raid in one of the countries that we operate in, and rescued I think it was 9 individuals, the youngest being 14, and we brought the trafficker to justice. We just found out recently that she was sentenced to 15 years in jail for that reality, so we do raids. So we're covertly setting up operations. The cyber rescue that I talked about, that was a covert operation as well, where our guys got the trafficker to bring his stepson to a public meeting place, and the law enforcement operation or agencies that we operate with were able to rescue. So we partner with agencies like the anti-trafficking police in the Philippines, government officials and agencies in the Dominican Republic. And so we're not the Lone Rangers just running out and doing. We're building the partnerships that are necessary to bring success, but also to raise the kind of the water levels in those countries that we're operating in, to help organizations have success, to see new tactics and things like that are necessary to bring rescue. So we do those covert. We do raids. We also do interventional. So we've rescued quite a few child brides. One of the most recent rescues that we did was a 14-year-old girl and her baby that was just a couple of months old that was forced to be married to a 35-year-old. So with that, like we've been able to see some pretty amazing things happen in those settings, and do things that our teams are in partnership with other law enforcement agencies to bring justice and to bring rescue, to bring aftercare. We partner with about 150 organizations and agencies to be able to do that. So that impact is wide sweeping, and it's incredible to see.
Let me ask you this, because I know this question is, it'll be brought up, and I'll be honest, I've thought it before too, and so I'm not meaning it to be anything, controversial in this aspect, but like, obviously we've got issues here in the States, right? So why are so many different organizations, and it needs to be worldwide? Like, I'm not asking this question in anything other than the fact, like, why so much out of the country instead of here locally? So
if you look at the bulk of trafficking, the percentage breakdown, about 70% of trafficking happens in the Southeast U.S. The stat that that's kind of out there right now is about 4% happens in the U.S. And the reason why our teams are rescuing internationally is because it is literally out in public. I walked the streets of a place where it was about 1.5 miles long. This just kind of walkway area that had bar after bar after bar, 1.5 miles on both sides. It was about 10:30 at night, and at 11, women and girls came out of the bars, and they stood shoulder to shoulder, 3 deep, for 1.5 miles on either side of the road. These little girls had numbers, not names. They had badges with a number that you could literally walk up and grab her, take her off to the side of the street to a hotel that rented by the moment, and then she would come back to work, required and expected to be with more guys that night.
Wow. So you say that the percentage is like 4% of, to me, we see it so much, right? Like it's everywhere. Yeah. I mean, and so but then you hear that number 4%, it's like, it sounds like nothing. So imagine how big that 4% is, and then how much it is other places in the world, That's scary.
Yeah, and I would say that 4%, like it's important for us to realize that 4% is attached to a name. She has a name, she has a story, and it is horrible no matter where it happens. And we've got to do something.
Yeah.
We can't just do nothing. We have to do something.
Yeah. Well, y'all are definitely doing something. There's no questions about that. You have a question, Mark?
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm trying to say whether or not we're going to revert back there to yet. I was going to see if it was going to come back up, but we were talking about the stain and introducing hope, and back to the original reason why we don't talk about this, enough, and then again maybe justifying it enough that, hey, it only happens 4% here in the States. Whenever we were talking about that, and it's going to lead me into a different thing, do you think the reason why we don't talk about it enough or bring enough awareness to it or a solution to it is because people think, well, there is no hope for that person for dealing with so much stress? It's the reality of, like, that was such what a vile and infiltrated evil act happened to you that now you become like this stained person, like almost an outcast. And
it's a scarlet letter.
Yeah, exactly, like a scarlet letter person, and there's just no, I guess, as a society, people go, well, there's no hope for you. How can there be hope for that person when they've been violated so much?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I don't know the motive of a lot. Like, I hear people talk about, like, so what happens on the other side? And there is incredible hope. I could tell you the story of a young lady that she was rescued by our team. She went into as our team. So one of the things that our team does is once we rescue, we assess the needs of that child. So we assess if their family's safe, and if their family's safe, we reintroduce them right away, because one of the best ways for them to heal is within inside of the family unit. each child's path to freedom is definitely different. So we never prescribe like you have to go this route, but we assess, do you need education? Is there, what's the vulnerabilities that led to you being trafficked? What if you need job skills, like what job do you feel like you want to go into? Like what's your dream? What's your hope? And this young lady, we had a program that taught girls how to do hair and makeup and different things. And she loved it. And she leaned in and she was able to graduate from that program, and she opened up her own salon. And she, my wife and I actually got to be there and to connect with her at one point in her salon. And she shows me 3 chairs on the other side of her salon. And she goes, "You know what those are for?" And I said, "No, what are those for?" And she goes, "Those are for my sisters who are yet to be rescued. But I want to make sure that there's a spot for them to come here because they need to know that they're loved and cared for. They need to know that there's hope." So there is incredible hope. So I think there are folks that will say, "Man, this is so dark, I don't know what to do." But as you begin to talk about the hope on the other side, that the fact that I've seen kids walking down that 1.5-mile street where they're hollowed expressions and they don't want to be there. That they feel trapped and that they feel like there's no other option. There's almost any light or hope or life in their eyes has just been drained. But then to see kids laugh again in our aftercare programs, to visit kids you're able to see like this is the impact of the work that we're doing and the restorative nature of counseling and care and all of those things. Like there is nobody too far gone. There's nobody too far gone that there's not hope for. As long as there's breath in your body, there's hope. And you get to see these kids come back.
There's a part of me though that goes, like, the human side of me goes, like, as far as they have breath, like the people that are doing this, I'm like, like I struggle with that as a Christian, right? Like, there's a place that these people belong, and there's things that I just like the guys that are running these girls. Yeah. Like to me, it's like, yeah, I look at that like is there hope for that person? Like I almost question, is there?
There is, because that's the grace of God.
Yeah, I know, but you can't help but like on the human side of things,
absolutely.
And you've walked it, and go, and you have to think, and granted, I never doubt him as far as my belief in that, right? But we've seen some of the worst of the worst. Yeah. You can't but help at times go,
Yeah. So that's where, like for me, what I've learned to do, and our team does as well, is there's a moment where you can just begin to pray and go, "Okay, God, I trust that you're going to work in that moment." And but there is justice. There is, there is that moment where you're like, okay, there has to be justice. My dad was a cop for.
Yeah, so I knew that about you, and I know that because I'm looking at the Traffic 308, and I'm like, yeah, I'm walking those streets, and I could easily use that on a lot of these people, and you can't help but like think like that when you see such. And let's face it, you're right. That is, there's so much bad going on in our country with human trafficking, but like that's just blatant and just downright scary that you have it on that scale where you can't help but go, the government knows about this, the locals know about this, and you're thinking, man, at what point does not swift justice for these people solve an issue?
Mm. Well, there's a country that we rescue, and that their laws on their books are changing, and they're upping the penalties for traffickers, and that's happening across the board in a lot of different places. I mean, there's a reason why we have the TIP report, which is Trafficking in Persons report. You can actually download that for free, and you can see all the legal changes that have been made for combating human trafficking, sex trafficking. And so you can see, like, there are, as awareness is being raised and as people are talking about it more and more, the pressure is on to address this in every country. And people are starting to see that and go, okay, we're unhappy that it got to where it is. Now let's start to do something about it. I mean, we have new laws in the U.S. even that are combating trafficking. And so I would say that we've got to, on all fronts, start to lean in even more and go, what's the next step? What does it look like for me as an individual to fight trafficking? What does it look like for my my business to be a place that recognizes the signs and reports. The schools, what does it look like for individuals to step overseas and become a rescue agent and join the Army? What does it look like for donors to say, I can't go overseas, but I'm gonna support this cause with my generous donations, things like that. So there's a point for everyone to get to the place of action.
Yeah,
and
there's
go,
no excuse,
right? And to say, okay, now we have to do something. And part of that is maybe working. There are organizations that do work with traffickers. You know, there are those who will bring rehabilitation and all of those things, and governments are bringing legal decisions down, and there is a price to pay for that.
So let me ask you this question then. We y'all are obviously on a global level with these operations, and how much of these operations or these trafficking groups do you see, like, you may be in one country and then know that, like, you're in another country, but yet it's the same people running those girls or those kids over here? Like, are you seeing it as transnational, or is it more locally controlled? Or are you seeing both?
We're seeing both.
Okay.
We're seeing both. So the cyber crime was a tip off from another country that had somebody's cell phone and had record of child pornography, and found this guy that was selling his stepson.
Now, how are y'all getting that tip? Is it like a NCMEC thing where it's like a third party doing the investigation, or is it a law enforcement agency?
It was a law enforcement agency.
Okay.
Reached out to the law enforcement agency that we partner with in that country where the video was originating, and they reached out to us and said, "Hey, can you help us set this up?" So we set up an undercover buy, and the guy came and brought his stepson with him, and it was set up to be kind of like a live view type scenario. And as soon as he showed up and brought the boy, the police were able to come in and arrest him. And I mean, that 2-year-old boy went from victim to playing with toys in just about an hour and a half time frame. And I mean, so you're seeing him become a normal 2-year-old again.
Yeah.
You know,
You almost hope that, like, at that point he just doesn't remember anything.
yeah.
Like, he doesn't, that even the saving of his life, he just doesn't remember that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a normal life for him, you know?
Is there a different healing process, before, during rescuing children than you'd find with adults?
Trauma is trauma. So you have to address the trauma. So one of the ways that we do that is we, as individuals who come through our care, we're able to focus on the traumatic moment, but then what does life look like on the other side of that? And I would say what may be different is the varying amounts of trauma. That's where I would lean into, but I'm not a professional, even though I was a pastor for 20 years, I don't have a psychology degree. But I would, as part of counseling, you have to address the trauma that each individual faces. And that may be different. Some of the kids who come through our care have only been in the establishment for a couple months, but I can tell you the story of a young lady named Lee that she, multiple times raped, and loud music playing in the bar, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs to get help, and nobody's coming to her rescue or aid. That happened. That went on for months. There are others that we're able to rescue that trauma, that level of trauma hasn't happened, but each child needs to be. That's why I say their path to freedom looks different. Some don't need as much counseling as others, and some don't need counseling at all. But so you have to assess the need of the individual, and then based on that, begin to build a plan of care that meets that individual's needs and addresses their vulnerabilities and the things that they're facing.
Are you getting these, so like a WITSEC, like a witness protection program, like you get them out of that and then you're completely rescuing them, or you're taking them to another country? I mean, are they still within the same country?
They're still within the same. They're still within the same country. And there are some of the young ladies that will go in and testify against their trafficker. One of the cases that we worked recently in the Philippines, they did a raid. The trafficker that was supposed to show up didn't, but he sent someone else in his place. And she gets arrested. The kids are rescued, and she's looking. The trafficker that had brought the kids there was trying to bring her boss in, because that was the guy that we were going for. Could not get him to answer the phone. He says it feels like a setup. It feels like a setup, and he doesn't show up. Well, from the back of the bus, one of the 15-year-old girls that we had just rescued says, "I can take you to where he lives." And she guides our team down some back alleys and dark streets in Manila, and then identifies the house. They pull off. Our team goes in and hits the house and rescues even more and arrests him. But
Got him.
Exactly. But the majority of healing takes place inside of the local family. So if that young girl's family's safe, we're going to reintroduce her right back into her home.
But how do y'all know, like, the family isn't, and I hate to say that, but I mean,
it happens.
I mean, yeah, you've got a family that's actually giving that child, I mean, the stepfather, right? How do you know, like, obviously y'all probably have things in place to vet that, correct?
We do. And so there's a process that our team goes through to make sure that individual's safe, and background checks and all those things. But we also have safe homes because there are some kids who don't have a safe place to go. So we're able to provide a safe place for them to stay, or they're able to, some of them are old enough that they're kind of independent living. So we have independent living setups. And so it goes back to that individual's situation, assessing what's in front of them and what leads them to a path of success and safety, because we need to rescue, but we also need to help them stay free. Yeah. So that's, we really never take them out of their country of origin or where they're from. We want to reintroduce them to their families. In Nepal, it's common that family members will travel outside of their country for a job. Like 30% do that. So with that reality, we know, I mean, it's just natural to be able to, let's help you get connected back home. And so that travel rate, like, people do understand that happens, but we try to reintroduce them right back into their families.
You know what's crazy is my first day ever, like, by myself on the street as a cop. I did a child warrant, or helped out with a child warrant with a big state team that came down and knocked down the back fence. And the brother was selling his younger sister, basically pimping her out, locked her in a bathroom, was pimping her out to his friends, in the city area that I work. But, like, day one, and I mean, it's obviously grown since then. But even from day one, it's just crazy, dude. It's
the interesting thing is the mass scale, right? And that's why it kind of fascinates me on the global level of y'all's involvement in regards to like deconfliction between other organizations, and how are y'all handling that? To take one arrest in one organization and then making sure that this isn't a global or a transnational, or is it,
Yeah. And that's where we have really great law enforcement partners that are doing all of that work, because our focus is to go in and to rescue those kids. And we do it in conjunction with anti-trafficking departments in the countries that we're in. So that those agencies are able to lean in and to do that research, and to watch the partnership that happens is pretty incredible. But then, at the end of the day, our focus is those individuals in that room for that raid, where we're able to bring freedom and health and safety to those individuals, working in conjunction with, okay, like, this is this pimp here and this is the network. And so those things do happen. But at the end of the day, our focus is that little girl that's right there in front of us. One of the rescues that we just did is this past week rescued a 6-year-old and her mom. So in that, like, addressing those individual needs and allowing our partners that are really good at what they do to begin to work through those networks and to address those things. And then as they also bring operations to us where they know that those interconnected pieces are there, we're able to partner with them and help them bring justice.
So because obviously you talked about different ways to get involved. And one of the cool ways that I think is interesting, especially as law enforcement, is how, like, a law enforcement officer may be able to go and help y'all in these undercover operations.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So for that, without giving away too much of you have the opportunity to connect with our team, our international team, and to have a conversation about timing and timeline. And, a few of our agents are current law enforcement, and with that reality, like they're able to step into projects or operations that we have going on and then pop back home. Others are on leave and go there for an extended period of time. So the best way to do that is to actually just go through our website and to say, hey, I want to talk to somebody about that. There's a contact button on our website that you can have that, and we'll start having those conversations with you where you're able to hear about the specific details of what it looks like to join the operations team and then to go. At the end of the day, our rescue agents come from a wide variety of backgrounds, but I was out with one of our guys that was a rescue manager, is a current cop in New Zealand, and we were able to sit down, and him and I, as we're talking and working this particular bar, there was a 12-year-old that had only been in the bar for a couple of weeks, and we're able to locate her and talk with her and to get the data and the information. And he sent me a link a message right after I got back to the hotel. Our time on the streets were done. He had another team circle around behind us that I didn't know about. We were the front team, so we were doing some surveillance, and then our other team came in behind, and they were able to bring rescue to that young lady. But it's just incredible to watch law enforcement officers who have that operational know-how and the situational awareness to address things. Like it was amazing to watch him in operation.
What would be amazing is watching a 26-year pastor go from leading a church to then essentially doing undercover work. Like that's what you did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you went, and that transition's fascinating to me. Because for us, that have done some undercover work, we know what to expect. But like for you, I guess your dad was law enforcement, so you kind of had probably a little bit different thinking. But tell us a little bit about that experience of going from leading a church and then essentially you're trying to solicit a girl for sex without her knowing. And
so what happens when I go and our team and any of our advancement team go is we're there to be able to possibly be a help to the operation. So I was playing the role of an out of town business guy who had lots of money and was there for the weekend and wanted to party. So they're trying to use that to bring as many young girls into the light so that we could get eyes on them and realize that this establishment was able to, was housing kids and things like that. So yeah, it was really different for me to walk in from that but the thing that the thing that gets me about that particular moment was that I was able to see her in spite of all the stuff that was going on around us. And as a pastor, you're trained to see people and to talk to people and to give hope. And I mean, you look at the story of Jesus with the woman at the well. Like that was my moment. That was my woman at the well moment. It was an opportunity to restore dignity, to go, you're here sitting down talking to me, and I'm getting your story, and you are safe in this moment, and nobody's going to hurt you right here, and to bring hope and dignity, and to be like, I'm not, our team, when we go out covertly, what helps us do that so well and to earn trust of kids is that we're not doing what everybody else is doing with these kids. We're looking them in the eye. We're having a conversation. We learn their name. We get their story. We're adding dignity and value in those moments. And then those kids know, wait a second, something's different. Then we're able to break cover and tell them who we are and what we do and give them freedom. And that helps us to build trust. So that, because kids will think, these kids have been lied to so many times. They're going to think that, maybe this is just somebody else who's going to lie to me. But they take the step of faith, and then you're able to bring rescue. I mean, on our website is a story, a video of our founder, Tony, where he was able to bring rescue to a young girl, and she's on the back of his motorbike singing at the top of her lungs. And he's like, I didn't understand a word she was singing, but I understood the sound of hope. And for that young lady, she was able to bring, she was able to get hope. She was able to be free. And I stepped into what I felt like in this season of life is what God had for me. One of our rescue agents in the Dominican, he was a soccer coach at his local church, and it taught him how to lead people It taught him how to start projects, and it also helped him learn to speak better English because he speaks French, Creole, Spanish. English was not his native language, but it taught him how to speak English. He's now leading our charge as a rescue agent in the Dominican because of those traits. It's really taking what you have in front of you and going, what's my skill set? Now, what can I do to impact people's lives with the skills that I have in front of me?
There's a lot there.
There's a ton there.
You know, it's absolutely incredible, man. You know, it's to hear that perspective. You know, I think a lot of times, you know, we talk about it. You know, I equate it to the first door you knock down. What do you see? You see the back of the dude's shoulders, right? You got such bad tunnel vision, right? And the fact that you had a moment of clarity amongst a moment that other people may, you know, see nothing but the dude in front of them in the tunnel vision. And that's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
Man, I'd just say this, you know, we talk about such an evil thing. Like I said earlier, it's evil at its purest form. And then you find Jesus and hope right at its purest form too. Yeah. And then how hope always wins, and how the rescue of the cross and what the cross stands for and who Jesus is and what God's true nature is in the darkest of moment, right? It's as simple as that. It's just bringing that light into the darkness.
Yeah.
And it always wins.
Yeah.
So it's awesome, man. It's goosebumps. It's crazy. There's hope, there's faith there, and it's something that we need to talk about. It's happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a stain anymore. There's hope for these people.
Yep.
They have a purpose. They have a destiny. You know, and it's your all's job to rescue them. So
let me ask you this. So an operation happens. We're inside the bar. You know, we've identified this group of, you know, workers, or I mean, I'm going to call them victims. We've identified this group of what we believe to be victims. How often are y'all going? Like you see your you know, your goal, right? Your victims, and you aren't able to make a rescue on the first attempt. How often are y'all trying to go back there, or most of the time are you getting the rescues right off the very beginning, first time?
Sometimes it takes up to 6 months.
Wow. 6 months of the same team, building up trust?
6 months of that same individual working and connecting to that girl.
So that's my question on that then is, I mean, obviously you're not soliciting the sex.
Right.
You're not, so how do you not, I mean, dude, I'm just thinking from an operate, how do they not, I mean, OPSEC, but how do they not get burned? Like, why has this guy been here for 6 months, but I haven't slept with him once? All my other Johns I'm having to sleep with, but what's going on here? So how are y'all keeping that cover without getting into too much? You see what I'm asking?
There's a couple things that happens here that I've heard from our team, because our team is, as they're sharing, one, you're safe, and that child's safe with you, and they know that you're safe, they're going to protect you. They're not going to out you. Second, there are moments where we pay bar fines.
It's the second time you said
that. So here's a bar fine. So a bar will have, you have to pay X amount of dollars to get this child off site to be able to have sex with them. So in the bar's mind, in the ownership or management's mind, we're paying money to go out off site and have sex with them. But that never happens. We pay the fine. We go down to like maybe a restaurant down the road, or a safe place where we can break cover and tell who we are and what we do and offer freedom. Sometimes girls will immediately, yep, let's go. Other times it takes a while. That's when I said it takes sometimes 6 months or even longer for kids to say, hey, I trust that you are, and even then, most of those girls, as you're talking with them, they will admit, I didn't know if it was true, but I was willing to take the risk. And so she took the risk and came out. And so with that reality and the fact that most of these places are, I mean, there are guys all over the place, we kind of blend into the crowd, and our teams are able to operate, you know, in places where we're doing raids. Like our identities are protected, and our team's very covert and very safe in that regard. But
So who's like backstopping y'all's information? I mean, are y'all doing that? Okay, cool. Anyways, next question. I mean, those are some of the questions. Like, to me, that's the fascinating stuff because I think about cartels, and I mean, you're working on a global level.
Yeah.
So there's not, sometimes I wonder, like, is help actually coming for y'all? And how do you trust? I mean, we talked about this when we were down in Florida. How do I trust? Like, if I'm down in Mexico doing this operation, yeah, I've got a guy that's supposed to be vetted. Like, how do I truly trust that federality is going to have my back?
See, this is why we build relationships with agencies and for long periods of time, because we want to have a great working relationship, and we do those things that are necessary to maintain that relationship in training and in connection, so that way when we come together for an operation, like, so on our website, we just released one of our documentaries. We have a few documentaries out there that you can watch. This one's called Operation Phantom. This is by far the most dangerous operation that our team's ever done, where we knew that it was basically an open air mall that was just nothing but bars and women and kids being sold and trafficked. Our team comes to bring rescue, and we're coming with not only just police, but we're coming with military, and it is a military operation, and it is massive. And we rescue, I think, over 70 individuals in this one operation, but could have had the potential of rescuing over 150. But that was we cultivate those relationships with organizations so that when we go, we know they've got our backs and we have their backs, and we're walking the door together.
I mean, yeah. It's any operation. There's risk, right?
There is,
but I mean, to me, it's even more inherent risk, and like that's the reason I was curious. Like I've talked to, we've got some people that we've had on the show and that we know that have gone, and they're officers, and they've gone and done these type of operations, and I'm like, man, you don't get to carry a gun. You're trusting you're with this other organization, not the organization, but the cops that are the local cops, and it's like, man,
yeah. Yeah, for this operation, the local cops actually taught our guys how to they ran down here's a quick way to how to shoot. And you see that on the video, they're doing target practice and, certifying them, and they're all carrying for this particular operation. But
that would be the operation I would like to sign up for.
Yeah, but I'll do that one, man.
I'll do that one. Can you sign me up for the ones where I'm armed?
Yeah.
Even give me a knife, I don't want the TSA to take away the knife. Let me ask you, did you have something?
No.
Let me ask you this, and I want to go back to something about, the girl that you approached for 6 months, right? This is their normal.
Yeah.
Like, this is their norm, right? I think of my daughter, and I think that I hope to God that's never her norm. First off, that's when I'm like, part of me, my Christianity may go out the door because I'm going to kill whoever it is. It's just how I feel, and I can't imagine, like, these are people's daughters, these are people's mothers.
Yep.
And I go back to that thought of, like, that, but this is their norm, right? And so overcoming that norm is got to be one of the biggest hurdles, I would think, besides having to pay the bar fine, besides the operational, the operation itself, besides just being there and offering them this hope. Like, what are y'all doing to prove to them in these moments, these short moments that you have, that this is not their norm?
Yeah. So it's helping them see, like, so for some, it's showing them the pictures of our safe home and helping them see what is ahead. For others, it's walking beside them in their darkest moment. So there was a young lady that our team rescued and she comes into aftercare, and she's in our aftercare program. She's in our safe home, and she is struggling. She wants to do salon training, but she doesn't feel like she amounts to anything. She doesn't feel like she has value. She doesn't feel like she has hope. So literally all those self-doubt things are just swirling around in her head, to the point where she left our safe home. And we never rescue kids and make them slaves to something else. So these kids can literally, if they're done, they can walk, like, they can say, I'm done, and walk away. She walked out of the program. The agent that rescued her saw her again in another bar a few months later and started to have another conversation with her, and literally deconstructed those lies that she was believing about herself. and she walked out of the bar with him, walked into our care, and it's hard, but she's leaning in and she's doing the work necessary because she's like, I don't want that to be my normal. I don't want that to be the way that it's always been. I can tell you of a young lady named Dow. Dow she picked tea as a little girl because that was all the income that her family could, the only job she could find. Her mom told her she needed to go to the city and find work. She goes to the city to find work, and she's forced to sleep with customers and service customers in bars. She reaches out to her mom, and she's like, we need the money. And so for her, she felt stuck. She said, nobody's going to ever love me. I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have a family. None of these things are ever going to be true for me. Nobody cares about me. I have no value. I have no worth. And as she walks through our aftercare program, one of our aftercare counselors was able to just connect with her and just invest in her and give hope and tell her the truth of the gospel. And in that reality, like in that moment, she eventually becomes a Christian. She sees the value that she has in God's eyes, and she is able to share the gospel with her mom and forgive her mom. And her mom's a Christ follower now, and she's now going to be a missionary to go serve with kids and to help protect kids. Like that, you just have you have to literally engage with each person where they are to help them to whatever's necessary to share the truth with them of what's going to be their hope or that possibility.
It's not an easy step.
It's not. And that's why sometimes it takes a while. It takes a while to build trust, to say that, no, this is, and I can share stories of where girls have come out of the bar and went, you need to meet my friend. My friend's in the bar. I don't want to leave my friend. And she brings her friend, and they both come walking out together. Others are going back in and rescuing their friends and going, hey, I went to this place and they didn't lie to me, and this is what's going on. And these kids are walking out into our safe homes with never having met a rescue agent. But it's incredible to watch as you do address those nuances and be able to help build hope and to go, no, this does not have to be your normal.
It's crazy. So y'all posted something that was really cool the other day on the main page. Who handles the Instagram?
So we have a whole media team that does that.
So one of the photos was a bunch of girls sitting on a bench that had been recently rescued, and then the next time they were all out at, I think, lunch or getting their nails done or something like that. And that's kind of like those. More people need to see that, right? Yeah. We see and hear so much of the negative side, especially in our realm. That's all you see is that. And there's something to it of seeing the success stories, and the success stories on a more global level. That's it's insane to think about.
Yeah.
So in one of your emails, man, you said, obviously you told us a bunch of stories, but tell us one of your favorite rescues that you've ever been a part of or you know of, and kind of walk us through that. Yeah. So
I shared with you the one about the young lady who said, I can take you to his house, because that shows resilience. And, some of my favorite stories is where not only do we bring rescue, but you see this individual healed and whole and then living their life on purpose. And, one of the young ladies that was rescued in the Philippines, her name's Sally. She was offered to our rescue agent for $80. The bar owner said, you can do everything you want to her for $80. And he was able to break cover and eventually get it to rescue her. Sally is now, has recently finished graphic design school and art school, and she's designing clothes, but she's also spending her hard-earned paycheck once a month and going out and feeding street kids and telling them that they have value and that somebody loves them and that they can be safe. And so it's those moments where you're able to see just some incredible restoration happen. One of the young ladies that I got to meet when I was in Thailand was graduating our aftercare program, and she through the graduation, her mom, her young son were there, her grandmother was there. And she stood up and just addressed the other girls that were in the aftercare and told them how much she cared about them and was grateful for them. But then she went over and sat down in a chair off to the side. We're all having, like, there's food and Cokes and all kinds of stuff as we're sitting there just celebrating these two young ladies that graduated. And as she's sitting in the chair, our staff members go over one by one and tell her what they see in her. And they continue to build her up and encourage her about how she's going to live into her dreams. And that young lady, like, to hear her story of when she came into the program, she wouldn't look anybody in the eye. She wouldn't talk to anybody. Anytime somebody would try to touch her, she would flinch or pull away. But to watch her having walked through that healing process, you would never know that was her story. You only see hope and life and joy and peace. And you see a young lady who is launching her own coffee shop, and she's a business owner, and she's driving, and it's incredible. Those are some of my favorite stories to be able to share. But the one that gets me every time is the story of Tala. To know that today she's back leading worship and teaching Sunday school, like, that one is
Full circle.
Yeah, it's full circle, man.
So, it's interesting I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of stories and stuff, but something you talk about is, like, and we've talked about it on the show, like your why and empowerment. And Dr. Glenn said it in this last episode, like, I don't want to take away your control. There's a fine line of, like, walking, and I'm assuming there's a fine line of walking a victim through this rehabilitation, so to speak, and growth and empowerment that you're empowering. Like, there's a fine line of, I don't want to seem like I'm telling you what to do, but I'm giving you the tools. But at the same time, you don't want to. I would assume you wouldn't want to just free will, or just like, hey, be lackadaisical about it, because they may not take that as serious. So, like, how do you see what I'm getting at? Like, how do you balance the control and safety, but at the same time of empowering them to where this is their decision to receive this help?
Yeah. So it really happens in the course of dialogue and conversation, and our caseworkers being fully present with these young girls, whether that be the Empower program is what we call it, as the aftercare process of counseling, of teaching life skills like forgiveness and self-worth and dignity and all of those pieces. So we're teaching big rock principles, but at the same time, like, this reality is that they get the freedom to choose, like, interactions, and because sometimes you're dealing with trauma. So trauma, like, folks who have been traumatized, they sometimes will have really bad days and they'll have really good days, and you're walking through with them through the highs and lows, and the consistency in which our team walks with them is the determining factor, I think, personally, for the success that we're seeing, because we're walking with them and showing them the same grace and love as on a good day as on a bad day. And maybe it's extra love and grace. Maybe it's another hug or whatever it looks like for them. But that reality is addressing individually where you are and building that plan, and them knowing everything that's going on with that plan. Like, we're not building the plan without them. We're not saying, hey, but it's with them, and it's side by side. It's with their families, walking with them. And all of that interaction then says, you care about me, I'm going to lean in, but also this is the things that I want to do. So we're not taking control at any point. We're actually infusing their ability. Awesome,
because, like, me speak words. My thinking is, that the fact that, like, even though y'all are approaching it that way, would some of these victims look at an organization as, like, okay, now they own me, right? And, like, that's got to be hard, because for a lot of these girls, that's how they looked at, right? Like, right. Okay, yes, they're saving me, but now I owe myself to them, so now I'm paying off this debt to them, even though we know that's not their self-worth. We know that's not the intention of the rescuers. But, like, for that's their norm, right? Yeah. Am I now belonging to this other organization?
And that's where the trust building process, Stephen Covey has this process where he talks about the speed of trust. And the speed of trust literally means that as fast as you can trust me, we'll move. So for us, that permeates everything in our organization. As we look at how do we engage with people, we move at the speed of trust. So if that's whether that's a person here in the States, a donor, or somebody who wants to go overseas with us, like, we're not rushing that process. It's relationship, aftercare, rescue. It's literally the speed of relationship. It's the speed of trust. And the worst thing that you can do is violate trust. So we're very careful about building trust, protecting trust. And then the other thing is, because of that, we've had individuals reach back out to us when life circumstances changed and they went, I need help. There's a young lady that we rescued. Our team, our aftercare team, went out and assessed the needs at home, and she, her dad had died, and she was living with her mom and siblings, and she went into the city to find a job so that her family could eat. And as our team's sitting there talking with her mom, and they're talking aftercare and how to the best care, and talking with her mom serves our team this amazing meal. And our team went, this is amazing. Her mom says, yeah, I would love to run a food truck. So we gave her mom a micro loan so that her mom could build a food truck. So she builds a food truck, right? So our team goes back, because we keep walking with kids for a couple of years very intensely to make sure that things are moving and they have everything that they need and they're doing okay. And as we went back, we saw these glass bottles sitting by her food truck, and they're filled with clear liquid. And we're like, what's that? And she's like, oh, I opened a new business. I started a petrol station, because there was no gas station around. So she was providing petrol. So she'd go fill up these glass bottles to sell to individuals with motorbikes, because that's how they all got around, So it built that. But then things changed later on for them. And Bodum went in to go find a job, and she found herself working at a casino. And then she began to see the things that were happening. And she called us and said, I need help. I don't want to be in this environment. And our team went out and said, okay, well, let's go. So we went out and helped her find a new place. And so this relationship not only carries the initial time frame that we're walking with these kids, but it also, we're available to continue.
There's no age out.
There's no age out. I mean, one of the young ladies that we rescued, sorry, I said that all these were my favorite stories. I've got another one for you.
That's why I asked the question, because I know you got more.
So a young lady, Sonia, that was rescued at the Nepal border. She was being lured. Her and her dad were talking about a job, and this guy promised her a job. She contacted him. He said, so if you get all your documentation in order, one of my associates will meet with you. We'll need to go get permits for you, and then we'll contact you. So she got all the documents that she needed, met with this guy's associate. That associate took all of her documents, went and was basically lying, because you don't need that documentation to cross the border to go find a job. And then they set up a time to meet. Well, she's crossing the border in one of our border crossing stations, and one of our agents began to ask her questions and literally unraveled all of it, and began to talk to her about how she was going to be she was probably going to be a victim of trafficking, and because that's just the ploy that a lot of people use. And so she goes back home to her family. Our aftercare workers connecting with her and walking with her. Sonia says, I need help applying for some jobs. Would you help me? She's like, yeah, absolutely. What do you want to do? And she's like, well, I want to go apply over here at this place. So Sonia applied. She's 21. She's now a police officer, making sure that individuals are not being trafficked.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's awesome.
So for our team, it's that continued relationship. It's the continued, we're going to walk with you. We have young ladies who have graduated the aftercare program and have written letters back to us talking about their husband and their kids and their life, and just a moment to say thanks. Others come back to visit our teams. It's that ongoing relational piece that just at the core of everything that we are as human beings, it's that relational love and desire that everybody wants.
Yeah, crave.
Yeah, we crave it.
Yeah.
And I mean, and honestly, like, to go back to the U.S., like, the kids in the U.S. are typically groomed because they're craving the relationship, and somebody lies to them and capitalizes on it. Internationally, you know, kids they love their families, and they'll do whatever it takes for their family to survive. So sometimes that means the older daughters feel pressure to go into the city to try to find a job, and that's where traffickers are luring and waiting, and will bring them into their establishments thinking that they're going to be working at a restaurant, they're working at a bar or a brothel or things like that. So that at the core, we have this desire for relationship. We have this desire for, we want to protect and be with part of our family, and that gets exploited. And that's where our team steps in and rescues kids out of that to bring freedom and hope. And then we get to see it restored, and we get to see it set right.
It's incredible. Incredible.
Amazing, man.
Anything, Mark?
Oh man, it is. You know, you're just being in the hands of feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah. And to know that we're not alone in this. Like, I mean, you as individuals, as you know, you guys get to be a part of that. Like, so the reality for us is, you know, I said at the start of the show, $1,500 to rescue a child.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to me personally, is how can people get involved? Like, what are all the different avenues? What can people do to start helping this and combat this?
Yeah. So I'm going to get to bring rescue, you know. So for some, it's being able to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to not go to Starbucks, and I'm going to become a rescue partner.
He said that because I was having my coffee.
No, I went to Starbucks this morning. Like, that was the first thing I did when I woke up. Was I'm like, I showered. I'm like, that didn't wake me up. Yeah. Starbucks, and but you know, maybe it's not going to. It's sacrificing Starbucks, or it's becoming a rescue partner. A rescue partner is any dollar amount per month where you're able to help bring rescue and restoration to kids. Others fund rescues, so they literally. I have the ability. You know, if you have the ability to write a check for $1,500 to rescue a child. There are individuals and even businesses that say, I want to make sure that I have an impact, so I'm going to fund a raid. You know, $7,400 funds a raid, and on average, a raid rescues 13 to 14 individuals. You know, it's $32,000 to fund a border crossing station for a year. It's $280 to provide a month of freedom for a child that's been rescued, aftercare, and all of those pieces. So that's one way that individuals, like, through your generosity, bring in rescue. Another is to say, hey, I'm going to look for the sign. I want to educate myself on the signs of trafficking and be aware, so that if I see something, then I can say something. Because ultimately, the reason why law enforcement officers are able to do the things that they do is, one, because of your investigations, but also on the tips of concerned citizens who see something, call it in. And I am grateful to God that there are agencies all over the world that hotline, that tip, is able to go right to a concerned agency, and they're going to investigate, and they're going to address it.
Wow. It's awesome.
It's powerful, man.
Anything in closing, Mark, before I close it up?
No, man. I always just think about how powerful our God is and stuff, and the things that he does, and this pure form of evil that we see, probably in its what people would say the most vile form, right? You have kids being sex trafficked and forced to do terrible sexual acts to each other, and then how ultimately that's darkness, and then the hope and love of who Christ is light, comes in and immediately gets rid of the darkness. Yeah. So the fact that what you guys are doing is awesome. Thanks. You know, I know me and Brad the same. If we can go and hit houses,
yeah. I just want to make sure there's some guns involved, and some little bit of working with these people.
Yeah, and we do. I mean, they have our backs, and it's incredible to watch them defend us and join us on this joint operation, because it's truly a joint operation that we do.
I would like to be one of the defenders for sure.
Yeah, and, but I definitely want to go. Yeah. You know, I think it would be amazing to do one.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
You know?
Yeah. I'm gonna start going to shark eyes here in a moment. That's it. You know, I do. I've organizations like this. You know, it tells me all the time there's a stain that people feel like they have, and Christ removes that stain ultimately. So, amen, brother.
That's good.
Tom, dude, you're doing some awesome work, man. Y'all are doing an amazing thing in the organization, and I challenge everybody listening. You know, I hope y'all can go and give $74,000, $55,000, all these numbers. But like, I mean, if you can only give a little bit, like it's something, right?
Yep.
I challenge you. My challenge to everybody listening today is go do a little something for this organization.
You know, I don't know why it's popping in my head, but I'm going to say it because I'm going to regret if I don't. I read this book about from a pastor one time, and he was talking about how we tithe, right? You give 10% to the church. And he brought up this great argument. He's like, hey, part of our duties as a Christian is, hey, to feed the poor, the hungry, and everything else, you know, and also provide for your church. So that tithing that you're doing, if you give 5% to your church, you take 5% and you give it to an organization like this, you're now feeding the poor and the hungry and the you know, the broken and the bruised, and you're rescuing them. So I don't know why I said that, guys. You can also use your tithe money too, as well. But that just popped in my head, and so
any organization, you know, our point, Tom, in the podcast, you know, one of the big things was like, how are we going to help organizations, you know, and what can we do to give back? And I hope one day we can get fiscally and financially where every single month we're giving to organizations like yourself and affecting change in a positive way. And so right now it's just using our voice to be able to, you know, do that and challenge people to make a change. You know, I think as Americans, a lot of times, you know, part of us doing this podcast is we get too comfortable, right? Yeah. And quite frankly, the media does a good job of sending out so much negative. So then it's just like, it's just another day. It's just something negative, right? Like, you know, hey, this is just, it's the norm, right? Yeah. But it's up to us to be able to correct that as not being the norm, right? Yeah. So where can people find Destiny Rescue? Social media is all that stuff.
Yeah. So at Destiny Rescue, that's our Twitter. It's Instagram. It's Facebook. DestinyRescue.org is our main page website. Where you're able to download or see blogs, download our documentaries, watch the videos. Our documentaries are behind the scenes footage of our guys that are out doing raids and rescues. And then there's other videos there that you can see. But that's where you find us and follow us. Like us on social media, because literally our team are throwing out updates almost on a daily basis. Yeah. I mean, we're rescuing almost 3 kids a day. Yeah. So there's a lot to share. There's a lot of hope to share. In light of all the things that you see in the darkness, there's a lot of light happening. It's because of you guys that's raising your voice. It's because of others who are donating. It's literally all of us moving forward to bring rescue and restoration.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, guys, make sure you go check them out. We've been following them. Amazing stories. Please go donate to their organization. Go do something today. I don't care if it's $1. Go do it. We're gonna do it. Right, babe? We're doing it.
We're doing it.
Yeah, you know, and these are the reasons we have the show. Stuff like this to be able to affect change, and if we can affect change in any way, to me that's uncommon because there's too much commonness of people just being okay with the status quo, right? Yeah. And we're not okay with the status quo. Those numbers that's the status quo right now, and we need to make sure those numbers change.
Yep.
So. Yep. Tom, thank you so much for coming into Texas. He's got to get out to the tactical games. He's going down to Florence. To see the tactical games and be down there, so that'll be a good time. Mark, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming back. Texas Gun Experience, guys. Please go check out Texas Gun Experience here in Grapevine, Texas. It's truly cool. Just go check out the website. Even if you don't live here, just go check out the website. Trafficking Systems, you can use code DUCL, Tack Hunt Fish. Make sure you go to their Instagram. We're going to be seeing their drops come soon. And last but not least, guys, stay safe, stay switched on, and stand coming.
I'm still